Hi everyone, welcome to Happy Place Painting. Today I'm painting a cherry blossom painting for my friend Robin. I tried something a little different this time. I tried a minimal palette, meaning I only used just a few colors. I started with some mountains in the distance. I noticed there's a bit of a difference between mountains that we have here in North America and mountains that they have in Japan. Specifically that they're more, like they're skinnier, they're not as fat, and I thought that was very interesting. Again, take everything I say with a grain of salt. I only know from what I've Googled. I've never been to Japan, and I don't know very much about Japanese culture, but I did do a little bit of research on the cherry blossom for the making of this video. I learned that the Japanese word for cherry blossom is sakura. I'm very sorry if I did not pronounce that right for anyone who actually speaks Japanese. The cherry blossoms in Japan only bloom for about a week, and it's a very big deal. They have like news watch for it. There's meteorologists that are in charge of determining which and where are the best places to view, and about 60% of the Japanese population actually participates in the Sakura festival, specifically in the form of hanami. From what I understand, it essentially means like picnicking while watching cherry blossoms, which is very beautiful. I feel like it could almost be comparable to the way the leaves change here in Canada, but the cherry blossoms are in the spring and are more a symbol of life and new beginnings, and the leaves changing essentially means prep yourself, it's about to get real cold. I tried to look up some poetry about cherry blossoms, but I feel like they don't really translate that well into English, and they are probably much more beautiful to listen to in Japanese if you understand Japanese. The cabin I'm painting here was supposed to be inspired by Japanese architecture with like the curvy roofs, but mine ended up turning out very rustic looking and almost like a cabin. So not exactly what I was going for, but it's still kind of cute. I am using my trusty angled brush here to try and get some good geometry, some straight lines and smaller shapes. I'm trying to add a little highlight and sunlight in different directions. The grids on the side of this little cabin here remind me of when I was doing the grids on the window panes in my Greek inspired painting, which is really fun. The video jumps a little bit right here. I'm not exactly sure why I did that. I feel like maybe I didn't notice it wasn't recording and I was too impatient to continue, because once I'm kind of in the groove, I don't really want to stop. So this is one of my favorite parts too, going crazy with the fan brush. It's literally my favorite brush too, and it's one of the cheaper brushes I have. I love the way the bristles are kind of disheveled, which most high quality brushes don't do that, but it's perfect for leaves. I'm painting this little river right here, and usually water is my jam, but for some reason this little stream I end up redoing like 4 times. It gave me such a hard time. I don't know why I struggled so much. I think it was just like the odd angles, they were just messing with me, so I couldn't give it like a smooth finish. I ended up going over and over again. So by this point in the painting, I've pretty much used the entire color palette, which is black, white, burnt umber, and crimson. Cherry blossoms are often used as a euphemism to symbolize how short life is and how important it is to take advantage of the time we have. I don't want to pull you guys all into my existentialism, but I think painting is a big part of that, and I know I'm not a super impressive painter, but it's something that I truly enjoy, and that's what I want to do. And I think with each new painting, each new video, I discover new challenges and new ways to get over them. I do occasionally still watch tutorials to learn different techniques to help me improve my skills, and I'm still working on my 10,000 hours. I'm not sure if you guys noticed there, but I redid that little river at least 3 times now, and now I'm adding some extra color and movement in the water. Speaking of honing new skills, I'm not sure if any of you have noticed that my head isn't in the image as much, and no butt crack is in this image either. If any of you are on my Instagram, you'll see that I have a new setup for my painting, and I'm very proud of it considering how limited resources I have. And I've managed to have a pretty good setup now, so I'm not in the way of the camera as much. I have it filming from above. A few of you might look at this and go, Lydia, you should have done the ground before the trees. And I would be like, you're right, but I was figuring it out. So I'm going to have to go back over it. And it's all part of the process. I always have fun blending colors together and making the shadows work together. And essentially in this image, the banks are darker than the sides, probably because there's some moisture. Now we're getting into the happy trees, which is always one of the more time-consuming parts because there's a lot of different little branches and they go all different ways and you're trying not to make them all look the same, but it's fun. It's sporadic. Get to go wherever you want with them. I think for my next video, if I do end up doing any trees, I will just kind of skip through the majority of the process just because it's a lot of the same. Gets a little old after a time, and we got about, I don't know, at least a good 40 seconds of this. You know what? I'm gonna steal a little saying from the YouTuber on CinemaSins and just go skip. Well, look at that. Movie magic. Who knew I wielded the power? The more you know. Now we're working on some more leaves with my happy fan brush. Oh, I probably shouldn't crack my knuckles while I'm recording. Very sorry. It's a thing I do. We're adding darker colors on the bottom so it gives some depth. Fun, fun, fun. Adding little sporadic little fluttering leaves. I guess they're not leaves, they're like petals. So now I'm working on the bridge. I originally sketched it out with a little piece of chalk so I can know my dimensions before I start because I want no regrets. The dogs aren't even in this video and they still managed to sneak their way in with a bark. The bridge also adds a little perspective in the painting, so like you can see that the bridge is slightly further away, so it's a little bit smaller and it's got cool little windows through it. Not my first bridge I've painted. This is my second one, but the first one with an arch. Now I'm working on the pillars on the other side of the bridge that are slightly darker and away from the light with my trusty angled brush using the little tip so I have lots of control. I just bought 2 new angled brushes this weekend and I'm pretty pumped to use them on my next painting. They're slightly smaller, so I'll be able to do some more tiny, tiny, tiny details. I'm getting close to being done the bridge, so now we're adding some highlights and some shadows, making it look a little bit more realistic, although I think I'm getting a little bit of a cartoony vibe out of this painting, but it's okay. When I'm recording this video, I always end up having to cut the last like split second because my husband has a mechanical keyboard and every time I hit the space bar to stop it, it just goes tack! So I have to always go in and cut it out. So if you hear a tack every once in a while, I just forgot to remove it. I usually don't record when I'm doing the chalk just because I feel like it makes me look really mediocre, but for some reason I decided to put it in this one, and I'm working on a cute little bench for my geisha to sit on, and I'm trying to do some straight lines, so again using the angle brush, using some more browns and blacks so that we can get the shadows in. And now I'm starting my little geisha. She's just sitting there enjoying the bloom. Now we're adding some more definition, give her some curves, add some shadows. Then I'm going to mix some crimson and some white. We're going to make a little bow. I added some little details in the bow to make it look like there's a pattern, but you can barely tell. But it's like little details that you can only see if you look real close. I like those. They add some personality. I had to redo her head like 8 times. For some reason, it was either too big or too small, but I did it in chalk and you didn't see that. Now I'm going to do a little umbrella. which I also drew in chalk to try and get that sphere oval looking thing, and added some little details. I added a tidbit of yellow in the umbrella, which is the only yellow you'll probably see in this painting. But I guess I got out of a little bit of the color palette. I lied, I'm sorry.